Welcome back, everybody, to the Sticks and Stones Women's Talk Show. We are so excited to have you rejoin us here today. Again, my name is Muriel, and I am the leader and founder of the Sticks and Stones Women's Ministry. Just wanted to remind you guys again, the mission statement of Sticks and Stones is to help rebuild women one word at a time, and that word is the Word of God. And the purpose and objective of the show is to provide an alternative way that we can watch media for women of minority in faith. So we hope that you've been enjoying the show so far, that you've been blessed, and that you've been encouraged and edified. Here with me today, I have my amazing co-host who's been holding down the fort with me. To my right, I have
Maudalene. It's good to be with you all again.
And this is Eartha. Great to have everyone back with us again.
Yes, we're so excited, guys. Thank you again for joining us. We just finished up our first segment with womanhood in media, which was very dense. We had a lot of juicy topics. There was so much more we wanted to talk about, but we wanted to do a P.S.A. show today. So before we get into the topic, we want to show you a brief snippet video so that you can look into exactly what it is that we're going to be touching upon today. So pay attention.
Hey guys, I just had to stop down in the middle of my day because there's something so important that I want to draw attention to. We're not hearing enough about how we, women, Black women, are under attack. 75,000 women and young girls have just disappeared. And if you ask me, not enough people are talking about it. It should be all over the news, all over the radio. These are sisters, mothers, wives. Our babies are just disappearing. Sex trafficking and human trafficking, human organ trafficking is at an extreme high. This is not random. This is big business that we're talking about. It's intentional, and people in high places know about it. We have got to be alert. We got to be cautious, and we got to be diligent because our lives depend on it. So I want you to do what I do. I mean, I'm literally, call me crazy when I'm out with my children, but I'm always watching.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it's not by surprise to many of you, but even if it was, that's the purpose of this show. So we're just going to start off. Sisters, what do you guys think about this? Like, how do you guys feel about what's going on? As the lady said, it's not getting enough media coverage. We just finished the topic of womanhood in media, where they're showing so many other things that is very irrelevant and brings us down as women of color or minority women. So just tell me, how do you guys feel about this now after watching that video?
It actually did take me by surprise when I first saw it. And the first thing that I felt really was a sense of fear. Like, could this possibly be true? I mean, I had heard about sex trafficking, but not necessarily human organ trafficking.
Yeah, I know.
That really took me by surprise, and I'm just like, this is horrible. And obviously it should be getting more media
coverage.
attention.
Yep.
So it took me some time and prayer really to be able to look at the problem with a clear head and not just go around being paranoid about everywhere that I went to. Obviously, this is sad news. Probably not new news, definitely new to me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are like, yeah, this has been going on, and it kind of raises more questions for me. So, what are the trends looking like? How long has this been going on? Is the number increasing? Is it decreasing? How big of a problem do we really have on our hands right now?
That's so true. That's so true. What do you think, Eartha? What's your perspective on this?
I have to say, same. Up until actually we brought it up to discuss it as a topic, which forced me to look into it.
Yeah.
I was not even aware
Yeah.
that I've heard of human trafficking before, but not to this level with these numbers, you know, on the women. So at first I was like, okay, so if I'm not aware, then that tells me there are a lot of people out there who are not aware.
That's so true.
As well. So which I think if people are watching now, hopefully this will bring awareness to it. That was the first thing. Second thing, so I'm like, okay, maybe information is not going to be brought to me. Am I being more proactive on finding this information? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I didn't know before, did I make effort to find out before as to what's going on, I always say ignorance is not bliss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It depends on what it is, right?
Right. So before in the other show, we talked about also educating ourselves. I think this is part of it as well.
Yeah.
Staying informed about everything that is happening in the world around us, especially things that affect our safety.
Yeah.
So that was my first thought when I heard about what was happening.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I guess it depends too, like who you follow on social media. For me, it came through social media. a certain type of group of people that I'm either following or that I'm friends with, I just started seeing a whole bunch of videos and clips and like missing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And then more and more people started talking out about it, even some celebrities as well. So it's like, it really saddened me because it's, again, we were just talking about womanhood in media. And I was like, why isn't this being, getting any type of media coverage? If it's anything else negative that we were talking about, we brought up during our last segment, like that's on the forefront and everybody knows about it. Yeah. And something so tragic as this, it's like, wow, it's unfortunate. Like you said, organ trafficking, like that's on a whole nother level. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, with that too, it's kind of like, why do we think that it's not being covered in the media platform?
That one made me scratch my head longer than the first one. I'm like, okay, so I know at some point, for example, especially now with the whole slogan of the Black Lives Matter, right? So now I'm thinking, well, this is huge, right?
Yeah.
With especially the numbers we're seeing, I'm saying, well, is it part of the whole topic of, do Black women lives not matter? You know what I mean? So I thought about that. Second thing is, even family members or some of the family members of these women not coming forward to bring up to see. Like the numbers we saw, is it just those numbers that were reported or are there even more that were not even reported?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I thought about that. To me, the data, Mudlin brought it up, speaks to itself. The numbers that we saw, I think we said 64,000.
Yeah, 64,000.
So one of the question that came to mind as well, because it's the engineer in me, I look at numbers and trend. I was like, is it 64,000 over a span of time that this is the total, or is it just lately that we saw the number 64,000?
Yeah.
Because to me, that will tell me a lot more. Is it a fast epidemic moving on?
Yeah.
Which would lead me to what I think the motive behind it is. Because remember at one point we had the whole police shootings in the men.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, is that the new epidemic now with the women's lives for sex trafficking?
That's
so
a good point.
I'm not sure why it's not being covered, but these are some things that made me scratch my head and I'm thinking, you know what I mean, as to what could it be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with your point about there's probably a lot of missings that don't go reported. Just from one of the articles that we read, a retired police chief from Georgia said, Black families feel a sense of shame and embarrassment if the disappearance is related to crime, if it's related to drugs by chance, and so they're not going to report it.
Yeah.
They don't want to put anybody else's lives or safety at risk.
That's true.
And then if they do report it, then they wait for the media to contact them rather than going after the news stations to say, hey, can you announce this? Another thing that someone mentioned was the fact that there's just a lack of diversity with the decision makers in the media. A lot of the people at the top are probably just more inclined to react to missing people who look like them.
That's true.
And that's just human nature, but they're probably not going to be as sensitive to missing Black women as opposed to missing white women.
No, for sure. When I saw this and I was thinking about it, even with the question, why is it not being covered by the media? I kind of thought to myself, should we always put the burden on the media to be able to put certain things out there? Because at the end of the day, like you said, these are people that look like us versus those that are behind the channel or the ones that are the one monitoring and managing everything. That's not, they don't look like them. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like if we don't carry the burden for ourselves, I think you made a point a while back on one of our shows on media, is if we rally together and we're demanding certain things, then I'm pretty sure it would be put out there. And I think what it is, on top of the fact that I'm not saying that they have no responsibility or no burden to bear, but I think that we as a nation or we as a people lack that burden for one another. To the point where there are certain things, such like you brought up the whole police brutality that happened. Over time, you realize that sometimes people will react out of frustration, but it's okay, what do you do then? You just mad over social media and you post about it? What are you doing about it? But it's not until something really hits your doorstep is when you really begin to be action, you take action on a topic. And I think that's where we fail as a people. It's like, okay, well, it ain't happening to me. I'm just gonna keep me and mine safe and we're good. And so it kind of, I think it's I think there's a burden and a lack that we as a people as well fail in, where it's like we're not caring enough about our own people. And so one of the things we wanted to share too is that with this new segment, we just did womanhood in media. This one is on sisterhood. So we wanted to bring this out, kind of meshing the two together in regards to media and sisterhood, because now it's, these are our own counterparts that are that are going missing, etc.
That's deep though. What you said about it's done until it hits your doorsteps. Up until then, it's like, oh, it's someone else's problem. Yeah, it's our people, but it's someone else's problem. Over history, that's occurred many times until it becomes a big problem.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's very deep.
And I like the point that Eartha made too about the whole Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, even though we did have that rally and that march and there was a whole uproar about it, I think this is a reflection to show that in reality, no, it does not. It doesn't. Because if it really did matter, then we would put a higher attention to it, etc. Emphasis, that's the word I'm looking for.
Exactly.
A greater emphasis on it. And so we wanted to bring this to you guys' attention as well, because this is important. And we feel like, okay, if we're supposed to be an alternative platform in media so that we can watch as women of minority of faith, it is our responsibility and a burden that we must carry and take so that we can communicate it to others and that you can tell others about it as well. So with that being said, we did want to give some tips on how we believe that would be helpful to any of us if we're, going anywhere in public, so on and so forth, or we're dealing with one another. Ways that we can stay safe out in the street, because hey, it's not a dandy world with flowers and roses. So we're gonna go through a couple of tips. We do have a few. We may not be able to cover it all in this episode, but we're definitely gonna come back with a part 2 so we can share more tips on ways that we can be careful out there and not be a victim to this current epidemic that is currently happening. So I'm gonna start with the first one, and it is awareness. So awareness, be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. I'm gonna have Maudlene just start off kind of like, what tips can you give on top of that in regards to awareness?
Oh yeah, I know I see a lot of people when they're walking down the street, they all have their earphones in and they're just not paying attention to anything that's going on around them.
That's true.
Like, take those earphones out.
Yeah.
It's one thing to listen if you're just kind of sitting at work, you're at your desk, you're doing your thing, but when you are out and about, it is very important that all of your senses are alert, that you can hear if somebody is walking up behind you quietly, that you can hear if there's even a siren, an ambulance is coming by, whatever the case may be. Like, and some people, they put their music so loud.
That's true.
That they just tune out everything else.
Yeah.
And I mean, not only that's not good for your ears, but also you really just have to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on.
Especially here in New England, like Boston.
Yes.
Because, people are cold. They're like, I don't care about anybody and anything going around. I'm just trying to get to my destination because it's cold out here. So I feel you. Awareness is really good in regards to, the whole headphones and stuff like that.
Right.
What about you, Eartha?
Absolutely. I mean, Maudlene, I think, hit it on the nail with that, especially you mentioned Boston. We got a lot of commuters.
Yes.
Earphones on the train, I'm minding my business, but you basically shut down your sense of hearing, period.
Yeah.
So you just took away one of your senses. But what I will add in addition to the earphones and the earbuds, even people on the phone carrying a conversation, they're so into the conversation, they don't know what's going on around them.
Yeah, that could be annoying.
So I feel like you ever see people that said, when you're driving, you should be, pay attention to the road. Well, when you're walking, pay attention to the road.
That's true. I like that. I
feel like you're not paying attention. Anyone can come. You can get pickpocketed that way.
That's true.
So I feel like in addition to the earphones, I'll add your phone conversation. That conversation is not that great that you can't wait till you get home.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, and actually, in addition to that, the only time that I might have my phone on, like as I'm walking, is as a safety measure. Like if I have to be walking by myself late at night, then I'll call someone and be like, hey, I'm not trying to have a deep, serious
Yeah.
conversation with you.
Right.
I just want you on the phone so that if we get disconnected and I don't call you back, you know that something happened.
Right.
Call 911.
It's a tool, but use it properly.
Yes.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
I think one of the other perspectives that I was thinking about in regards to awareness is, on top of the fact that we are bringing this out, be aware of maybe some women or children who are missing in our areas, because sometimes they post signs. Sometimes people are putting up on social media and Facebook. Not only is it not good to just block your ears with headphones and keep walking, but hey, people putting up signs of missing, and people cross borders and going to state. You could probably bump into the person or pass by somebody who is actually been missing. You know what I mean? So I think that's another level of awareness to have, because we don't know, and even to know aware of if it's happening in front of us. Maybe somebody can get snatched up while we're walking somewhere. And because that person probably can't scream help, we could be like, oh my gosh, like I just see something happening here. This doesn't look normal. Let me call the cops.
Yeah.
Let me get the license plate, or let me, you know what I mean? So even, to be aware in that aspect as well, because now that's stepping out of ourselves. Because I think what you guys are bringing out is so much more selfish. We're so centered. We're just thinking about ourselves that we're not thinking about our surroundings. Like, okay, I'm not saying we got to be like some type of police, but it's good to just be alert and aware with what's going on around us. So that's what I thought
touching on
about.
the whole doorstep thing. Don't just be aware of just you when it hits you.
Exactly.
Be aware of your sisters as well.
Exactly.
Right.
True. The second one we have is the buddy system. So try to travel or go out with a buddy or a group of people when you're going out. The buddy system. I don't know if you guys use the buddy system. I know it's a little bit different now because everybody got their own lives, but what did you put down in regards to buddy system?
Actually, growing up in a immigrant Haitian family, I was raised like that. My mom was raised like that, and I'm sure my grandma was raised like that too. They never sent us out without someone else.
That's true.
That's
true.
just how it is. You did until I became an adult. Then that was replaced by my spouse. But you never went out without someone else. So I agree with buddying up everywhere
Yeah,
you're going.
that's true.
Even also, I know, for example, a lot of students, campus police sometimes will ask if you want an escort, for example.
Oh, that's true.
Right. Take advantage of it. They're offering it. Why not take advantage of it?
students,
Don't
yeah.
feel like you're bugging them. I think they would rather that you told them and they escort you as opposed to find out later on that you're missing.
Yeah.
Right? So take advantage of that. Something that, again, my parents have always taught me to do, which I always do. If I'm giving somebody a ride and I drop them home,
Oh, that's
I always make
good.
sure that they go inside the house,
That's good.
close the door before I drive off. For example, the person could have been missing their keys or whatever. Next thing you know, you drop them off in front of the house and you go drive up. They're stuck. They're outside,
Yeah.
unsafe.
That's a good
right?
point.
So
That
I think
actually happened to one of my friends.
really.
I dropped her off, and then she's looking for her keys. She couldn't find them. She ended up coming back into my car to sit and wait for the landlord to come open the door.
Wow.
But if I had driven off,
Exactly.
she couldn't do that.
Can you imagine if
Wow.
it was freezing cold outside, the person just, that's really
Yeah.
unsafe.
No, that's true.
So I think that's another
good.
one. And I think we all just kind of go back, about, I think it can actually even tie with awareness. If you know someone and you're used to their schedule, and then for some odd reason you haven't seen them in a while,
That's good.
check with them.
Yeah,
Let's
check
say, actually, this happened unfortunately, to my friend I went to school with, where he was missing. His roommates didn't see him for 2-3 days. They didn't say anything, and then
Wow.
they found him in one of the food chains in his car, dead.
Oh my God.
So imagine, I feel like maybe if you guys said something, you haven't
Right.
seen. It's later on they said, oh, what happened? They said, oh, we haven't seen him in the last 2-3 days.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, why didn't you say something?
yeah.
You know what
that's
I
so
mean?
true.
So I'm not saying you know everyone's schedule, but if you know, I usually see this person. It's a classmate. They usually sit next to me. You don't see them, say something.
That's true.
Or coworkers, they haven't come to work for 2 days. Check on them. So that's one
true.
of the things I would say about buddy system.
I like what you said before, when you were like, okay, I have my phone for safety. So if you don't hear from me, something happened, So that's another form of a buddy system to know, hey, I'm about to go into this place. Just letting you know, I just got in, if you don't hear from me in the next, 30 minutes, just check in to see if everything's okay.
Right.
Or, a lot of times now we have some popular sites like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, where people are buying things from people. It's not really business real like a store you're going to. So if you have to meet up with somebody to buy, that you're purchasing something on or for, it's always good to be like, yeah, I'm meeting this person at this address to go pick up the camera that I bought. I don't know. I found them on Craigslist. So I think that's a good way for us to have, it's sort of a buddy system. It's somebody, in other words, the buddy is accountability. Somebody who's aware of where you're at, so on and so forth. So I think that piggybacks off of what you were saying earlier.
And definitely, now that you mentioned that, it's not really safe to just go to somebody's home to have a transaction like that. If you did buy something off Craigslist, I know I got my car off Craigslist, and my uncle came with me. His mechanic came with him. The person who was selling the car came with his friend.
She came with the
and
gang.
we all met at a public parking lot and
She came with
did
the
our
gang.
test drive all together. And it did make me feel safer. I didn't really think about it at the time,
right.
but now looking back, I'm like, yeah, that actually makes sense both as the buyer and as the seller, to make sure you have somebody with you so that nobody tries to defraud you, money, whatever the case may be. So definitely be careful about any transactions that are taking place somewhere other than an actual store or marketplace.
That's a good point. She said it's safe for the buyer and the seller, because okay, maybe you're not the one buying, but you're the one selling something, and somebody's probably coming to you to meet you somewhere, or either coming to your house. I'd be really sketchy about that. I gotta give people my address. But to know, be like, somebody is there, especially us as women. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that men can't go missing, you know what I mean, or anything can happen, but for us who are considered the weaker vessels, as the scriptures talk about, there's, we don't have certain abilities that men do have. So we are prone or more at risk to find ourselves in those type of situations. So it is something to be very aware of. That buddy system it's actually pretty broad. You know what I mean?
And I think the important things about the buddy system, you have to actually care. You know what I mean? Don't just see it as a burden. I guess I got to do this. If you actually care, you know what I mean? This could be my sister. This could be my mom. This could be my cousin. You know what I mean? Do it. You wouldn't want the same. You would have want someone to do the same thing for you as well. So put yourself in that situation.
It's true.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, Muriel, this isn't just for women. Like, this is good advice for men and women alike.
That's true.
Because you just never know who could be targeted.
Yeah.
It might not be for sex trafficking or organ trafficking. It could be for any other reason that somebody might try to attack.
Yeah.
So this is just common sense overall.
For sure. Especially with like young children. Nowadays, back in the day, we used to be able to play outside. My parents would be like, go play outside. Or, even going to the bus stop by yourself. You know what I mean? As young girls, young boys as well. It's very important. I know sometimes we want to be cool. We want to go and, walk with friends and so on and so forth. But it's very, very important to know you're safe. You know what I mean? No matter where it is that you're going. Don't try to grow up so fast that you don't need anybody to look out for you. It's so, so important to be able to have that connection. Point 3 is actually like connected to buddy system, and I didn't even realize that we were going into that. We already touched on it. An emergency contact. So if you have to go someplace alone, make sure at least one person knows your plans. So that's exactly what we were saying. Even with, I remember we brought this up at our last show. But with social media, people be traveling, and people, like, you see their destination, like travel Boston Logan Airport, traveling to Hawaii, and you know what I mean. And people know where they're going. They're taking pictures, and then in the Instagram or even the Facebook, it actually gives a caption of like the location of where the person is. Like, I'm at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and whatever such and such place. Like, you're making yourself a target. You're making yourself a target. So I think that's important. Be aware of that too. It's cool. Nobody's saying not to travel, but it's very important to, not put your location and everything out there. It's a very dangerous, cold world out there. So we gotta definitely be very aware of our surroundings and who we're sharing certain information with as well.
Oh yeah, the pictures can wait until after you return from your trip.
Right, sis, come on, tell them.
And the location services on your device don't need to be on at all times.
Right.
Like just
It's
turn
true.
it off unless you're using it.
It's true. It's true.
I think in addition, though, Amelia, to not only telling people, you know, well, don't tell social media where you're going to be, but tell your family where you're going to
Right.
be.
Right.
Trusted
Right?
people.
Trusted people. I like
Emergency.
that.
Tell your emergency contact. But I think in addition to tell them where you're going to be, when are you expected to return? Because let's say I was going somewhere and I'm telling my family, I'm gonna be back by 9. Next thing you know, it's 10, it's 11, it's midnight. You don't see me.
Right.
By then you can start worrying. Unless I called you and said, hey, I thought I was gonna be back by 9, but I'm running late.
Yeah,
right?
that's
but
true.
if you don't tell anyone, this is the time I know we're grown, but this is for your own safety, right? It's not somebody's
Yeah.
trying to control your life, but it's in case they don't see you. My mom always said that, hey, what time you expected to be back? In case they don't see you, they know, okay,
Yeah.
I can start worrying now.
For
you
sure.
know? So, and I think the more information you can give them, not social media, your emergency
Yeah,
contact.
your close circle. Yeah,
the
no.
more information you can give
It's
them.
funny, but people really do that. That's
you
what's
know?
sad.
It's so funny. People are telling social media everything, but they're
Everything.
not telling their emergency contact enough information because they know you were going this place, but they didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you go missing, the police come? The more information they have, it's to your benefit.
Yep,
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
to give them enough. And I just think in general, I know for me, the minute something doesn't feel I mean, people call it intuition. I call it the voice of God.
Yeah,
you know?
for
The
sure.
minute something doesn't feel right,
Right.
whether I'm in an area or even something's going on, about someone or someone did something to me. If something doesn't feel right, I think it's okay to share that with someone.
Yeah.
Tell at least one person, you know what, this happened. I don't know. I didn't feel right about this.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? It
That's
could be
true.
to your own safety later.
No, that's true.
So.
And so with these, basically what we're saying is always good to be proactive.
Right.
Because yes, we may hear certain things on the news, etc., but it's by then sometimes it's too late. You know what I mean? So it's very important for us to be proactive in regards to our safety, not only our safety, but the safety of our friends and our families and those who are we're connected to. For the benefit of us as a people, as sisters. And in sisterhood, we know is not a blood thing. It doesn't have to be a blood thing. But we want to be able to know that you guys are aware of everything that is going on. And we just wanted to bring that snippet first. We do have some more, but we do have to wrap up. We want to hear your thoughts. What are some tips and some ways that you believe that is good to stay safe? Maybe even share with us an experience that you had. Maybe it was a close call. Maybe it was something that you noticed that maybe happened to somebody else or was going to happen to somebody else. So we want to be able to have this to be a conversation and a topic that is continuous so that we can constantly stay aware, because just because it's out there doesn't mean that it stops. And a lot of times, even though it's on the media and it's no longer being stated or shared on media, it doesn't mean that it's really over and it's resolved. There are mothers, there are, family members, people from all over who have family members that are missing due to this situation. And it's so important. Don't wait for it to be on your doorstep so that you can react or say something in regards to it. So we appreciate you guys. It's time. We hope that you enjoyed it. We will be coming with a part 2, and we have so much more to share. But definitely don't hesitate to give us your thoughts, your perspective, your experiences and stories as well that you feel like that can benefit somebody else. And with that, we say have a great day. Bye, guys.